So the title of this video or this session or this live, whatever you want to call it, is the ultimate chart of accounts blank file for QuickBooks Desktop. So I want to show you kind of a hidden thing, a trick, a personal trick that I use in my practice to set up QuickBooks files really, really, really quick. So what I have is I have a template. I'm going to show you what it looks like, which is basically a blank file that has a completely blank chart of accounts. It has no items, no accounts, no information. I mean, I could just show you real quick if you want to see what that looks like, and that would be useful. But so this is a blank file that I have, and I basically just open it and start working from there. Yeah, right. So I'll just duplicate the file in my desktop somewhere, and this will be my starting point. So coming tax season, that I'm doing, 50 to 100 accounting per, for like a month. I'll be doing like 100 files. It's very important for me to quickly get up and run with a QuickBooks file. So this is my blank QuickBooks file that I'm showing you now. It has no information of the P&L, no information of the balance sheet, nothing in the chart of accounts. So I have a pre-saved chart of accounts, which I call the ultimate chart of accounts. And I want to show you how I load that real quick. So I click on the File menu, go to Utilities, Import, IAF File. Okay, then I click on IAF File, and then I go search in my desktop somewhere, right, where my file is. So I have this IAF file called the Ultimate Chart of Accounts, and this is my own customized chart of accounts that fits most of the tax returns that I do. It's designed for an 1120S for an S corp, but it can fit 1065. It can fit a Schedule C. It can fit a C corp, but for the most part, it's designed around the S corp, which is the most common type of company that I do. So I'm going to click on Open, and you're going to notice how all the accounts are going to load up in one shot. Now, the reason why I use this route is because sometimes I want to edit that chart of accounts before I import it. So what I'm showing you now is I open up a blank file, and then I bring in all the accounts. So you'll see when that finishes loading up, it's going to have what I call the ultimate chart of accounts. So this is my ultimate chart of accounts that I have. This is the chart of accounts that I use for almost all my brand new QuickBooks files. And I end up tweaking maybe 10% of it, 15% of it max per customer. Now I want to show you how I work with standard chart of accounts. So from here, I can delete any of these accounts. I'm going to show you. I can hit Control D, and I can delete any of these accounts. I'm literally just right-clicking and deleting accounts. So this is something that I can do easily if I want to get rid of some accounts. I find this to be probably the fastest way. Load everything up and then delete the ones that I don't want. But I'm going to show you a really interesting trick that I have. So I'm going to go back in here and import my chart of accounts again, because I deleted some of them. So I'm going to re-import it just to fill it with all my master chart of accounts list. And I'm going to show you a really interesting trick that I have. So I have a pre-built journal entry that touches all my P&L accounts. So there are cases in which I want to create this QuickBooks file, bring in the chart of accounts, but I don't want the user to be able to delete the account. So this happens when I'm setting up a file for a client, and I want my client to only use these accounts and these accounts only. Now, I can't prevent them from creating new ones, but I can prevent them from deleting them. So what I have this pre-built journal entry IAF file that basically will import a journal entry that contains all of the accounts in a single entry. And when you have at least one transaction, it won't let you delete them. So I'll show you. So I'm going to go import IAF file and import this blank journal here. It's called a blank journal. I can show you what that looks like real quick if you want to see what that looks like in Excel. So this is a custom IAF file that I built that contains my entire chart of accounts. Actually, it contains only my P&L accounts, because balance sheet accounts can be deleted. That's, if you're not an accountant, that's difficult to explain. But all my P&L accounts are in this IAF file. That's basically a journal entry. and all the accounts are being affected in one shot, so I can't delete them. So I'll wait until these finish loading here so you can see what that looks like. Okay, and this is going to be a pretty long video. We're probably going to go through 20 minutes because I'm going to show you a whole bunch of like sort of tips and tricks of things that I do related to sort of like standard chart of accounts. Okay, just there's a lot of more work that goes to it. So this right here is my journal entry. As you can see, this is a preset journal entry that I created. So every single one of my P&L accounts are affected, and the purpose of this file again is to import that and not be able to delete any of the accounts that are already there. Again, that's for the purpose of setting up a file for my customers, and I don't want them to be deleting accounts. Right? That's really what it is for. So I'm going to go ahead and finish importing the IAF file, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to go into company, make general journal entry, and I'm going to go backwards for a second so you can see. Okay. And you see I got this pre-built journal entry with every single account. And again, the reason for this pre-built journal entry, it's well, a couple of reasons. Well, one is if I want to run a P&L for real quick so I can print it so I can see what that looks like, that I can do. And two, it prevents them from deleting it. So let me show you what that does. So let me go back into my chart of accounts. And let's say they wanted to delete one of these accounts. So if I right click on any of these at random, I click on delete, QuickBooks will tell you, no, you can't do it. It's been used in at least one transaction. So you can't get rid of it. So they can still make it inactive, or it's just a quick protection that I have because I don't want people to be deleting accounts, especially when I set it up for them. So I start with a blank file. I import my journal entry. I import my accounts, and then I can delete the ones that I don't want. Okay. There's a couple of ways to also delete the ones that you don't want. You can delete them on the IAF file itself. So if you open it in Excel, the way I showed you earlier, and you delete each individual line item, that's a way that can be done. So that's one of the alternatives. Or two, like I said, I think it's easier to probably just delete them from here. So let me show you the effect that has and what this account looks like. So let me run a report real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go to reports, company financial, profit and loss standard. Okay, and it's showing a blank because there's obviously no transactions there. If I run this report for 12/31/2015, which is the date of my journal entry, 12/31/2015, you will notice that now a profit and loss with every single account that I have used will be prepared. Again, that's a journal entry with a bunch of zeros that I created. So that's one of the other values of having that standard journal entry, push in and just use all the accounts. One of the real valuable pieces of work that I do with my customers when I set up a brand new QuickBooks file for them is to print the report and get them to tell me how they feel about what they're looking at and have them ask me questions about every one of these accounts. Now, something else that you're going to like that I did, if I click on customize, where do I have to go? Hold on. If I go to edit preferences and I go to reports and I go to company preferences, here where it says reports, show accounts by, I will select name and description. Okay, it's because I pre-built descriptions with instructions on how to use each of these accounts. So I click on OK. And there it is. So this is like a cheat sheet that I have for my clients. So where my clients are trying to figure out what category goes where, there's a description or an explanation next to each of these accounts, right? And this is most of the stuff I typed up. Some of it I used the standard verbiage that came with QuickBooks, but I put some examples. Like, for example, if you look at this one right here, social media, it says social media marketing up to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, right? And you can customize this per customer. So you may have customers that use a certain account or not use another certain account through the description. I'll show you what that means. So if I go into the chart of accounts and open up any of these accounts here, let me just edit one of these accounts. I can change the description here, and most people think this description is useless. And it's not if you use it purposefully like this. So if you enable those descriptions to show up, that becomes really useful. Also notice that all the parent accounts, so I'm going to hit collapse for a second. I'm going to hit collapse. So I'm going to hide all the sub accounts. You will notice that all the parent accounts that have sub accounts on it, under the description, it says don't use this, right? Because if you've used QuickBooks in the past, you know what this means, right? It's sort of a pain in the butt when they start selecting parent account as their categories, because it creates this additional other. So all the ones that have sub accounts, and you can tell with this little triangle. Actually, hold on a second. Let me run my zoom tool so we can zoom in a little bit. Sometimes I forget to run my zoom tool. So let me zoom in real quick. Okay, so I just want to show you here. So you see right there. So all the ones that have subcategories, which are the ones that have the little triangle here, those are the ones that tell me, okay, all of these have subcategories. The description says, don't use this, right? This is a parent category. So I'm also kind of purposeful in how I put these together for my clients. Now I'm going to click on Customize Report, and actually not that. I'm going to go back and remove those descriptions because they only have one purpose, which is to print it like that. So because I hate those descriptions, actually. They clutter the report quite a bit, but they do have a really good purpose when you use them for that way. Now I'll show you a couple of the things that I do here. So notice that the default uncategorized, I still leave in here, because no matter what, QuickBooks is going to create that for me when I turn on my online banking. So I create it because I just don't want that to be created randomly. And I like it there because it basically jumps at you. Now under sales, I put everything under net sales. And what I do is all the other income accounts that are here, such as sales of products, sales of service, other sales discounts, shipping and delivery income, all that stuff will net under net sales. And then whatever lands on uncategorized, that probably needs to be recategorized anyway. So I really like putting them into subcategories. Almost always I create parents and subcategories because I'm a strong believer of printing the reports in collapsed and expanded in different scenarios. So that's how I do them. And then the other thing, and this is what most of my clients like, is in order to help my clients categorize their personal expenses, what I've done is I created an entire sort of chart of accounts just for their personal expenses. And I have them all tucked into one category under other expenses called other personal expenses. I'm going to zoom this in so you can see. So right here, sorry, I keep pressing the wrong shortcut. So I got this account here called owner's personal expenses. And I do have to train my clients that this net income is not what they look at for taxes. The only one they should look at is the one up here, okay? So for tax planning, I teach my clients to look at net ordinary income and not net income, because under the other categories, I put all the things that may or may not have special tax treatment, right? You got interest income that could have tax special treatment. You got proceeds from insurances. You got proceeds from asset sales. As my accountant, taxes, things related to disaster relief, and owner's expenses. All these things are special, right? So they may or may not have special tax treatment. So that's why I put them sort of under the line. So everything in here is subject to review. And up here, most of the times, that's the number that we use for tax planning or estimating what our profitability is. Anyway, so if you look at this owner and personal expenses, I created all the categories, the most common ones that are related to personal expenses, right? Charitable contributions, political contributions, rent or mortgage of personal home, utilities of personal home, personal income taxes, personal vehicle, personal travel, groceries, family activities, restaurants, personal clothing, electronics, furniture for personal use, home improvement. Notice I use categories that are likely to be personal. And I think that most non-accountants, when they're categorizing personal stuff, if there's a category in the chart of accounts that looks and feels like the one that what the actual expenditure is, and a lot of business owners don't think of in that context. Oh, is this personal? Is this business? So as long as we get them to put it in there, it will capture all under that one major category called owner's personal expenses, and it's all there. And a lot of accountants ask me, why don't you put it in equity? Why don't you put it in distribution? I think that for most folks, it's a lot easier to visualize it in the P&L, even if it doesn't help or skews net income. As long as you get people to look at the ordinary net income and not the net income, that's generally okay in my experience. So that's why I put them all in the P&L. Now I can show you the balance sheet real quick. I don't know if that's going to be very valuable, but take a look at the balance sheet. And the journal entry that I push in there doesn't actually affect the balance sheet, just affects the P&L. So for this, I have to use a different trick to get the accounts to show. I click on Customize Reports, and then I click on Advanced, and then I click on All. Okay, and then I hit OK, and OK, and that should show me all my accounts. So those are all the accounts that I pre-built in my sort of the standard ultimate chart of accounts. So it's all preset. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I've done. Now I have a little kit in my computer that contains the blank file. It contains the blank journal. It contains the chart of accounts in IAF, and it also contains my file already with all the chart of accounts imported. So depending on what I'm trying to do, I may just open the one that has the chart of accounts already, or I may open the blank one and selectively import the accounts that I want to bring. I also have the chart of accounts in an Excel document. So if you want to see that, and let me show you in my website. Let me bring this over. So in my website, I have a link where you can download the chart of accounts in Excel. So I'll show you what that looks like real quick. I just posted this. So right here, Ultimate Chart of Accounts for QuickBooks Desktop. And that same chart of accounts that I use, so anyone watching this video could check it out. They can click here where it says download here, and they can download it, and it downloads the Excel file. Okay, so this kind of website explains what exactly is it that's going on here. You can also download the PDF of the balance sheet and the P&L if you want to see what that looks like. Now, for my customers, this is what they get when they come in, and I set up a QuickBooks file for them. I set this up for them, right? It's all pre-built into QuickBooks. They don't have to think about it. This is just like, one click, the file is ready to go. It saves me a lot of time. It allows me to concentrate more on customizing the chart of accounts instead of creating the accounts. And for anyone that wants to buy that template of me, that website is set up to sell it. So yes, this video is partially set up to promote the blank file. So if you want to get the blank file and have it, and the chart of accounts and the journal entry all in one kit, I have it on my website. I'm going to put the link in the description somewhere, whether you're watching YouTube or Facebook. I'll put it in the description somewhere. So I'm selling that for $48. Why $48? Well, that's just a random number. So I picked $48. I mean, if you know how to import chart of accounts into Excel on your own, into QuickBooks from Excel, you may not need to buy the template. You can kind of build this on your own. Just take the ideas and build it on your own. But for the ones that want to save an hour or two of setting up a QuickBooks file from scratch, this is an option. I'm going to show you one more thing that is really, really awesome. It's really one of the things that took me the longest time in here, which is the income tax portion. So after you have everything done for the year, there's an income tax preparation reports in QuickBooks Desktop that most people don't use. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. Okay, and I have Sarah here is commenting that $48 is worth the hours. Yeah, of course. This chart of accounts has taken me 7 years to put together. This is like an accumulation of experience and knowledge and things that just worked and didn't work. So obviously, I've gotten to the point where I add a lot of value to the community with my videos and my webinars and all that stuff. But I think that a lot of the stuff that I do I can monetize simply by creating the templates, giving someone real valuable, tangible value, things that they can do and speed up the process right away. But this report called the income tax preparation will bring in all the information from your P&L and your balance sheet, and it will tell you exactly which line in your tax return it goes to. Now, this one's designed for the 1120S. If anybody buys it and wants me to remap this for 1065 or Schedule C, just email me and I'll remap it for you. So if you bought the template, you want me to remap it, and this is going to happen in the next couple of days anyway, because people are going to buy this and people are going to ask me to remap it. But the mapping is already preset for the 1120S. I just have to sit there and remap it for all the other ones. So if you were to prepare a tax return from this, if you're looking for like the simplest way to prepare a tax return, if you got your QuickBooks desktop file done, you can run this report called Income Tax Summary. It's really awesome. So you run the Income Tax Summary and show you what that looks like. Wait until that loads. Let me run this for, I'm gonna run this for 2015 because that's the year that I created a blank journal entry for. So this will tell me exactly what to put in each line of the tax return. So if you're preparing an 1120S, it will reorganize your chart of accounts to fit the tax return. So there's no manual adjustment of joining, information from line 1 to line 3. All this stuff is pre-summarized and already pre-done for tax return. So you can take this to a tax preparer and they're going to love you for it. And if you're a tax preparer, you're going to love this because you really don't have to think much. If all the work in QuickBooks is done 100% right, then you run this report and it tells you exactly which line on the tax return it goes to. Again, for 1120S, I'm going to be rebuilding the mapping, the same chart of accounts, the mapping for multiple. So let's see if we have any questions in YouTube or in Facebook. So one person's asking if you have a file for Canadian. I don't have one for Canadian. So I'm gonna figure out if I can get a partner in Canada to like load this up for me in a Canadian file, and maybe they can sell it or send it back to me so I can do it. This is all designed for US because I really don't know anything about Canadian tax returns. But in theory, this should work. I don't know. I don't want to jump the gun because I really don't know anything about Canadian QuickBooks files. So that's the answer for that. Let's see. What about QuickBooks Online? That's a good question. So this is not designed for QuickBooks Online. I don't know how to make this easy for QuickBooks Online, but in theory, you can convert this to QuickBooks Online and everything should come over. So I haven't done that yet. That will be part 2 of the video. All right. Are there any other questions or comments here? Let me see what we got. Nope. There's no more questions or comments. Got a couple likes, a couple of, this is a pretty good idea. What about different industries? That's a good question. So this is not designed to fit every industry. This is a generic, I call it the ultimate chart of accounts, because then I apply my industry knowledge to changing it a little bit. This is what I call a tax return ready chart of accounts. This chart of accounts is driven by my desire to work faster during tax season. And then, usually I'm picking up a client for the first time, running, a whole year's worth of financial statements, getting the tax return done, and then picking that QuickBooks file. And in February, loading it up so they can run QuickBooks on their own. So at that point, then I adapt the chart of accounts to work for me. Okay, that's it. So I put the link in the comments somewhere. If you have any questions, email me, message me, and hope this was useful.